Right, this is a 35,000 kilometer review of the Extralite Hyperstem. It retails at about 172 euros, so this is a expensive, top of the line product. Exotic, you could say. I bought this in October 2015. It's been on my bike ever since, so I've ridden it all over the place in all sorts of weather, up and down. Up climbs, down climbs, sprinting, going mental on it. So yeah, this is my 35,000 kilometer review. Right, let's get into some detail then. First of all, let's look at the weight. This is the 120mm stem with a 6-degree rise. With the hardware, everything included, we're talking 86 grams. 86 grams for a 120mm stem. That is light. Now let's look at the details, how they've made it, all the little things they've done to it. Because with this stem, there's a lot of stuff they've done, and I'm going to go so far as to say this is a work of art. So looking at the main part then, the main body, this thing has got loads and loads of details on it. They've completely gone to town on this. It must have taken them ages to design this. The first thing to note is this clamping part is asymmetrical. The part where the thread of the bolt goes in is larger than where the head sits, and it sits slightly off-center. Next thing to note, the top and bottom area where it clamps onto your steerer tube, they've machined it right the way in here to shave weight, I guess. It's thicker on the outer edges, but the inside bit is all sort of machined away. Then, of course, you've got this giant cutout here. Maybe a little bit difficult to see on the video, but on the inside here, where these two parts come together on the back of your steerer tube, it's beveled, which is a good idea. So it means that it doesn't cut into the carbon. This is also the case on this edge here. This is quite smooth. And then on this inside edge here, and it's smooth all the way around. So they've done a good job there in, thinking about actual real-world use. Next up, the machining on the top here, that you can see the CNCing where they've cut it all away. Really well thought out. They've taken just about as much material away as they can get while still, not having the thing snap. You can see the angle they've gone for here from this part where it's the thinnest, and then it angles up into the main body of the main tube. This is all machined as well. You can see the machine ridges all the way along. Moving on to the front then, there's loads of cool stuff here as well. You can see the machining as well, similar machining to the back. It's very wide here, and this is about as wide as you can get away with on a road stem, because any wider and your Garmin mount, which sits to the left or the right of this, depending on which brand you've got, if this is any wider, the Garmin mount will be sitting too far out, which means your Garmin will be off center. This thing is absolutely right at the edge. When you put your Garmin mount there, it sits just in the middle. That must be by design. Again, you can see where they've machined out the bolt holes. The bottom is slightly different, of course, because the angle of the stem is not straight. The next thing to note, the interesting thing, and the first time I'd ever seen this on a stem, is this rounded profile here. This edge here and this edge here, you can see that are actually, they go over round. When you put your bars in, actually it's sort of, you have to push your bars through, and they get stuck here as you push the bar in, and then it sort of pops into position. Now, I actually originally thought that when I got this stem, the Extralite had cocked up and they hadn't machined it properly. So I sent them an email saying, I think your stem has got too much material on the top and bottom here. And then I was going to get my file out and file it down, but before I did that, I sent them an email to see what the deal was. And actually, it's by design. So the reason they do that is to, one, apparently aid adjustment of the position of your bars before you've torqued these bolts down, and two, this being slightly more than 90 degrees here means that it clamps your bars in position stronger, meaning that they can get away with a much lighter front section here and still, have the correct amount of clamping force, which is a really good touch. In terms of fasteners, they use these Torx bolts rather than Allen bolts. I do like this, but this is not as common a tool that people have in their workshop as an Allen key, is it? So if you're going to get one of these stems, get ready to buy a new tool. Also, right, my first perhaps little criticism of this is that they use the T20 size bolt, which is really uncommon. If you buy a torque wrench set, you'll usually get like a T25 size tool, but the T20, it's really uncommon. So, you have to sort of search out the right tool for this. You might have to get a new adapter for your torque wrench, or a new driver. In terms of little details, it's got the sizing machined on it there. This is a 6-degree stem with 120 length. We have established already, haven't we, everyone, that 120mm stem is the ultimate. Anyone riding less than 100 who isn't a midget shouldn't be riding a bike. Torque 3 Newton meters. Very low torque item, gives you the minimum insert there. I really think that you should be having a spacer above this anyway, so that your steerer tube is clamped in the right way. Down the inside, it's just machined straight. There's no sort of obvious butting in there. There may be material thickness differences down that tube. I don't have the tools to measure that. These front pieces, fairly simple, but again, they've been machined away, really machined away, ridged all the way down there. Really nice. Now the bolts are inside of the head is convexed so that this doesn't gouge into the very soft material here. What's it like in use? Well, I've ridden this for 35,000 kilometers. Whenever I get a new part for my bike, it's always a bit of a learning process, isn't it? Especially with this super lightweight stuff. When I first got this, it took me a while, even with a torque wrench, to sort of figure out how tight I should be doing these. Reading that 3 Newton meters on it, I thought, bloody hell, that's pretty low. Again, on the front, it's the same situation. You really got to go delicate on it. But then once it's in position, it hasn't slipped. When I first did it, I actually under-torqued it and my bars moved a little bit. But then I got it to the right setting and it hasn't ever slipped. The rear has never slipped. In terms of actually riding it, what I'm going to say now is just my idea rather than anything scientific. But this feels very solid. I've really, climbed hard on it, leant into it, sprinted hard on it. Nothing's moved, nothing's shifted. So let's have a look at, what's happened to the actual material structure over 35,000 kilometers. Overall, nothing's gone wrong with it. It's not cracked, right? Because I'm still using it. Nothing's bent. Nothing's twisted. There's a little bit of surface wear around the top here. This is, due to steerer flex causing a moving around here with the top cap and the space that you put on top. This area does sort of twist and flex a little bit when you're dropping the hammer. So due to that, there's a little bit of wear on the anodizing. Not just the anodizing itself sort of coming off. It's got a little bit of little nicks into it. Nothing serious, but when you run your finger over it, you can feel a little tiny bit of roughness. It's nothing major. Same on the bottom, just where it shifts around as you're sprinting and climbing hard. I've actually opened and closed this part loads. I've actually been going through a bit of a problem with my Cannondale Evo forks, which have cracked. So I've been taking this thing on and off a lot. Despite that, this has shown no signs of wear in here. Even with me opening and closing it a lot. There's nothing really on the front. There's no wear on the front. There's a little tiny bit there. The fact that there's no wear on this part shows that their overly round clamping system here really does hold your bars in position well. If it didn't hold your bars in position so well, this would show signs of, the bars moving around and perhaps taking off the anodizing. But no, but it's been basically perfect. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. Yeah, this white logo, when you put your Di2 band around it, it gets dirty. And that, you can't get it off because that's kind of ground in dirt. Apart from that, I'm going to say this is the best stem you can buy.